Thank you very much, and once again, thanks Howard for such a generous introduction. It makes coming here all the more pleasant. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to acknowledge a few people. Sue Wicks is here in the audience tonight. Sue Wicks was the president of the Darlinghurst branch of the Labor Party when I joined many years ago. It's lovely to have her here tonight and be in the audience with me. I also want to acknowledge Emma. It's great to have a return show with her. That evening on the Central Coast was a bit like the Dave Allen show, if any of you remember that sort of thing, but without the jokes. So I'm not such a funny guy. And let me really acknowledge the traditional owners of the city, the Gadigal people. I do pay my respects to the elders past and present. And I want to thank the organising committee. Putting these events on every week is a powerful body of work you people do. It contributes greatly to progress in our society and the development of ideas, so I want to commend you for that. How you do it each week is quite something to be amazed with. The topic tonight, Labor movement, electoral appeal, how can it be strengthened? Should we focus more on social justice? The answer, of course, in my view, is an emphatic yes. Labor's electoral appeal can be strengthened by a stronger focus on social justice. But let me make a few comments on what social justice is. And we talk about social justice in its many forms in the Labor Party, and we refer to it in many ways, chiefly referred to the light on the hill. It was a vague term, but it was also very powerful and evocative, and one which has strong appeal and continues to have strong appeal in our party. It's a binding force within our party. He talked about bringing something better to the people, better standards of living, greater happiness to the mass of people. I like to go back to one of the first 35 Labor members of the New South Wales Parliament, elected 1891, James McGowan, who then went on, some of you will know, to be the first Labor Premier of this state. He said the Labor Party is a state socialist party, and then he said more or less. He went on to explain what he meant by that. He said the object of the Labor Party is for democratic legislation in the interests of the people. We believe almost to a man, in the lines of the English writer Landor, every government should provide for every subject the means of living honestly and at ease. We should bring out of every man as much utility as we can. Sure, it's a bit Victorian, but the sense is strong and powerful. It talks about economic outcomes and social outcomes, and it's a rejection of the sort of economic liberalism being pushed by Conservatives at the time. Social justice is at the heart of all of those descriptions of Labor and its role in politics in this country. For me, social justice is a rejection of the liberal notion of economic freedom. It's concerned with social and economic outcomes. Do people have the jobs, the housing, education and healthcare they need to live a good life? It's about having a society organised in such a way that people aren't dependent upon charity or goodwill. Over the last 12 months or more, there have been a number of dramatic political events here and in the wider world, and there are lessons for all of us and for the Labor Party in all of these. Perhaps the biggest example was what happened in the United States, the election of a political outsider, Donald Trump, to that office on the Republican ticket. The Democratic Party candidate, Hillary Clinton, had been expected easily to win her party's nomination, but she didn't. She was challenged by a man who, to the alarm of some, was content to describe himself as a socialist. Clinton won the nomination, but she did so without the support of the traditional working class, true blue democratic states in that country. Those people had seen their jobs disappear, they'd seen their education cut back and their healthcare made affordable. There was no social justice in the economic system operating in the United States for those people. There was a whole bunch of injustice. Those states then supported Trump, and the rest is history. As Australia's oldest political party and one of the oldest social democratic parties in the world, Labor has had its fair share of setbacks. I won't go through all these, we're here all night, but undoubtedly the biggest for the New South Wales branch was the 2011 election. Our biggest defeat, we saw our primary vote the lowest it's been since the end of World War II, 26%. John Robertson, who became Labor leader after that election, correctly identified the cause of that loss. He said Labor had simply stopped being a Labor government. However, it's perhaps one of the advantages of our longevity that we've been able to become practised in the art of rebuilding and recover from our defeats. Rebuild we did. By 2015, we've recovered much of our primary vote, 34%. Not enough to be sure. We returned 14 of the 32 seats we'd lost in 2011, including the seat I hold. We're less than halfway there, but we're certainly in a better position than we were in the past, and we're in a better position to contest the 2019 election. Much more needs to be done, and party reform has been a big part of the recovery in our vote. It's not a topic that usually gets much coverage in the media or in front of the public, but it's important nevertheless. Rank and file party members of the Labor Party now have a say in the election of their state and federal parliamentary leaders. They didn't in the past. Rank and file party members of local electoral councils now choose who they will send to an expanded national conference. They didn't do that in the past. And it's often been overlooked, but in terms of candidate selection, the New South Wales branch, often one of the most maligned branches of the party, is the only state branch where rank and file ballots of local party members is the main process used to choose candidates for public office. I've been through a bunch of rank and file ballots. They're not pleasant, but the members love them, and I was fortunate to prevail before 2015, and here I am. As well as that, there's been a number of affirmative action initiatives introduced into the rules which aim to increase the number of female candidates and public office holders, as well as females holding executive positions on electoral councils and as delegates to conference. We've set quotas. The quota at the moment is 40% female candidates, executive members. This will rise to 50% by 2025. Before we lost office, and I think to our credit, and to address the corrupting influence of money in politics, Labor introduced donation and spending caps for electoral funding. Donations from developers was banned. The O'Farrell government tried to unwind a lot of that, but they failed. So these internal reforms, as well as the electoral reforms Labor put in place before we lost office, have made New South Wales politics a whole bunch more democratic, and it's set us up for a fairer fight in the future. In the area of current public policy, there is a pressing demand for Labor to implement policies which will promote more social justice in this state. After 25 years in this country of economic growth and the public policy view of the world which has embraced the market, I think it's fair to say that for many of our citizens, the market has completely failed. There's an abundance of evidence that in the housing market, secure housing is beyond the reach of many in this state. The cost of housing, both to buy and to rent, has increased at a much faster rate than wages in the last number of years. There are now more foreign buyers of housing in this state than first home buyers. Since winning government in 2011, the coalition solution to housing has been more supply, a simple market response. The current Premier said the most effective way we can tackle housing affordability is an increased supply. She hasn't changed her tune over the 6 years of the current Liberal National Coalition government. The current Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, last year said, now this is how you address housing affordability. Housing affordability is a result of there being insufficient supply of housing. You need to supply more housing. However, despite what has been referred to as a 5-year boom in housing supply, and we're building houses at a rate we haven't done for many, many years, housing prices have continued to climb higher than wages and inflation. If we accept that equal access to secure housing is necessary to ensure economic participation and is a key element of social justice, affordable housing should be part of Labor's agenda at the state level going into the next state election. The other area that I think is important is energy supply and in particular the cost of electricity to consumers. After 20 years of privatisation by both sides of politics and the creation of the national electricity market, I think we can undoubtedly say that national market and the market in electricity has failed. Despite an abundance of natural resources, we have some of the highest energy costs in the world. The high cost of energy is a constant pressure on working families. And the injustice is that those who have money can opt out of those high prices by putting solar panels on their roof. I can do that in my street, but my neighbours cannot, only because I'm paid a higher wage these days now that I'm a Member of Parliament. It is completely unjust. So bereft of social justice is our energy market that in the year 2013-2014 we disconnected 32,000 homes from the electricity grid because they couldn't pay their bills. They're appalling figures. So there's been an absolute failure of the market to provide decent, affordable energy, electricity in this state. But with this in mind, it was brought to my attention recently that Professor Andrew Blakers, the director of ANU's Centre for Sustainable Energy, and his team released a paper recently after some detailed analysis, and he has said that Australia's electricity market could reach 100% renewable electricity with high reliability and at zero net cost within a decade. It's an exciting prospect. The opportunity to make people's lives a little easier and to support jobs must not be allowed to be captured by the private for-profit sector and this failed electricity market. In this, our opponents are unwilling to intervene. Just today in the New South Wales Parliament, the Premier committed her government to an energy policy squarely based on the market and private for-profit providers. Government intervention to secure affordable energy for New South Wales must also, in my view, be part of Labor's agenda. Lastly, we have to admit that after 25 years of economic growth, there are many for whom employment cannot be obtained, or if they can obtain it, it's precarious and insecure. The young in particular struggle to find the training they need in this state as a consequence of the massive cuts that occurred in TAFE under the current government. Labor has committed to rebuild TAFE, but there's much more we can do to make sure that secure work is within the reach of more of our citizens. So in finishing, ladies and gentlemen, Labor's historic mission remains the same. It's always been prepared to use the state power when the market has failed. We should be prepared to do so again, in my view. It's an exciting time, in my view, to be part of the left. The market has failed. Thank you again for your invitation, and I look forward to your questions.